Already. It's this time again. So we're at the end of the RTA contention season. Oh, is it contention season? OTA.
Children of the stars will be saved.
Yeah, contention season. So we were 14 days out from the end of OTA season. So it's time to make an account. We go and make an account review just for storage and informational reasons. So starting off, I am been more lazy this round, so I've just been sitting around in champion 2700 to almost 2800. I don't really feel like pushing further than this, just because it's the meta is just really RNG heavy. The meta is very just debuff heavy with a Tywin, TDR, and stuff like that. So it's really unfun. It's not really fun to play, but overall, let's go. Let's start into the account review. So we're gonna be starting based on speed, because that's just how I sort everything. Actually, no, let's just do everything based on color, and then based on speed. So, the first one we're going to look at is Narquois. So this Narquois is slightly worse than the one I showed from last patch, from last RTA season. And that's just because I decided to take away a lot of her speed gear. So as you realize, she went from like 285 to 269. I took away a lot of her speed gear. And that's just because I had other speed units I had to build that were more important than her. So it ended up being that she ended up getting the short end of the stick, and she ended up being like, I think she's like the 4th or the 5th in line of getting speed gear, compared to all my other debuffers I have. So this is not, she's nice, she's works. She's really, Narquois is just really good when you play into a Lila Narquois, and she's really good especially if your opponent has GDR, your opponent has Blood Moon Haste, because with enough skills and with enough technique, you can probably just out finesse your opponent using the seal on her S2 and using the bind on the S3, which is the most brutal part. So since she can bind everyone and she can reset, she can basically shut down a lot of those cleave teams, a lot of those not cleave, a lot of those counter teams, because bind just makes it so they can't counter, and bind also makes it so any of the activation skills like Junua won't activate, or they'll activate but they won't do anything, right? So in the end, you want to build her as fast as possible. I have her on broken set. She has decent speed. This is like, these weapons could be a lot better. So she does have a 20 speed helmet, 17 speed here, 13, 17, and 45. You can tell that these two pieces are not really good, because I don't really have better options. But they're okay for now. Like if I had like 4 more speed here and then like 4 more speed here, she would easily be 270, almost 280, right? And 280 Narquois is kind of good. And of course you have Guiding Light. Guiding Light is required for her, and that's just because you really need her to not get zealed, or you really need her to not get like debuff or not get instantly targeted by a single target skill, which is nice. And Narquois, on top of that, is also immune to getting sealed here, because she doesn't actually have a passive. So like she actually isn't exactly fully weak into someone like Moonlight Luna. She's not really weak into someone like who we call it, like Zio is not exactly weak into a lot of those units like Junua, because she's here, she can always do it. The only weakness I would notice for her when playing OTA is that she's pretty okay into a Tywin. Being able to reset a Tywin is really nice, but the problem is that you give him the passive, and then on top of that you also have to steal the a Tywin. Not stealing a Tywin is kind of a troll move, because that also means if you accidentally hit the a Tywin due to the provoke, he would just cleanse off the seal on the opponent's side. So yeah, be kind of careful when you play Narquois into a Tywin. Otherwise, he's cool. Next up, Oamenta. Oamenta is a new unit I built for this this patch. She is specifically here just to counter GDR, a Tywin, Blood Moon Haste, and Junua and stuff like that. So the entire gimmick is that she has a her S3 has two burns and a stun, right? And the big point is that the burns come first before the stun. So against units like a Tywin, he will cleanse a burn off before he will cleanse the stun. So if you're lucky enough, you can get a 4-man stun against an a Tywin team, and their entire team just dies, because a Tywin will also have to deal with a second burn that he will also cleanse off. So in the end, he'll just be sitting there like an idiot and just do absolutely no damage. In terms of EE, you want her EE to be the S3 EE because you need the increased chance to stun. Her original chance to stun on her S3 is 70%. You need to be 80. You need to be as high as possible because you really want to stun the S3. And to play around her stun, you want Abyssal Crown. Abyssal Crown gives you an even higher chance of getting a stun, especially if you miss this. If you fail to roll the 80% check on her S3, you have another chance with Abyssal Crown. And Abyssal Crown also makes it so all her abilities, like her S2, can also stun on top of it, to make it even more, make her even more detrimental against really heavy comp. Team-wise, stat-wise setup, you want her on pretty fast gear because she has her base speed is 106, I think, but she also has a 10 speed EE, which is basically means her base speed is about 114 because you add about 8 speed due to speed set. So she's about 114 base speed, which is decently slow, but you want to build it with as decent speed as you can with a lot of effectiveness. So you can see I have a hit speed set. A lot of my speed gear here is averages around 17, but except for my necklaces and my ring, which is like 13 and 15. Of course, with enough luck here, I can always buff up the speed here to be like a 17 maybe, and with 17 speed, well, I can reach it to 70 to 80, stuff like that. So overall, aim as for much effectiveness as possible. Effective resistance is a dump stat. Attack is a nice stat to go into, but I wouldn't. I don't like going to attack as much here because I don't really use it for damage, right? I use it as control. And I actually want her skill 3 here to do enough damage to prop up Janua, especially if you don't get the stun. So it's better to just get her with a decent attack, and then I just like bulking up more, because bulking up more means that even if you get countered by someone like, let's say a Bloodmoon Haze, right? You don't die to him instantly, because you have enough HP to tank him, especially with a little bit of mitigation on your side, which would be okay. Next up, Shell Tier. So Shell Tier is my Guild War unit. I use her sometimes for PvP, especially when my opponent is playing a lot of evasion. So when you build her, you want Speed Pen because she has no innate pen, so she's like the Hawk. You want her to with as much attack as possible, as much speed as possible, as much crit chance and crit damage as possible, and you don't really need to worry about defense and HP because she has a damage limiting passive. Otherwise, you can see my Shell Tier is decently strong. She will one-shot any evasion unit in the game. It doesn't matter who they are because she has 100% hit chance on her skill 3. Her artifact of choice is, best in slot on top of that, is Pipet Lance because of all the things, this just gets the most damage. You don't really want to play, you don't need to play like Sigurd Scythe because she's already single target, and you don't need to play like Golden Road because she don't really need healing. You just need her to do damage. So, yeah. Gear-wise, you see she has really good, really almost premium gear. Her gear is pretty like on the nose of like what I like. She has a little bit HP, but that's okay. So you can see she has a lot of attack, a lot of crit chance. She has a lot of damage overall, and she has a decent amount of speed. So this just makes it so she's actually probably will kill. But overall, this is a really hard stat line to build. She has a lot of crit chance, but the fact that I have a imprint, triple S imprint here on Shell Tier makes her gearing a lot easier. She's really hard to gear over otherwise because you can tell this necklace has 28% crit chance, and that just barely reaches her crit hit chance at 100%. It's so much like stats you need to get, especially if you want high damage. Otherwise, yeah, otherwise it's good enough, right? Next up, Veronica. So Veronica here. She used to be faster. She's like the 7th in line for speed gear of all the units I have built. She used to have 270 speed here, and I realized that there's no real point to really get her to match speed. And on top of that, you can tell I kind of didn't really have an issue where she doesn't have 100% crit chance. I'm being kind of lazy here because I don't really play her often. She's really good if you really need a speed imprint and you're speed racing, right? And your opponent has like, I don't know, BBK. But like, if you're dealing with a speed race, right? I don't like dealing with speed races, so I usually just give it up. But if you can, she's a nice speed imprint to have because she can be pretty fast. You can build her really fast, and you can result into a bomb. If you can get her fast enough, she can probably cut the opponent team, and you can probably bomb one of the cleave teams, right? Especially if you go into a cleave versus cleave situation where whoever goes first is a winner. Yeah, stuff like that. In terms of gear, you can tell she has a lot of leftover gear. Like her speed set's like freaking awful. Like, I'm being kind of lazy here. And then, you know, like, she has effectiveness, like, it's just cool, right? Okay, Tamron, we're just gonna, like, briefly look over it. She's just a PvE god. I have my Tamron on, like, pretty decent speed with, not really, her status rise is not really good. She's a Mega Host Home. I only use her for PvE. Okay, moving on. Janua, he has kind of fallen off a bit recently, and that's just because he is still actually. I should like change. I should change my opinion. He is by far the best DPS in the game right now. There's no one else can really compete against him because he simply does way too much damage. So if he is enraged, he will go to S1 into an S3, and that basically obliterates any character in the game that is not water, especially if it misses. And then the character does not have anti-crit, so like Landy. Usually, if you do crit, it still kills. Juno might lose a little bit of value, especially since Moonlight Illinois is coming out in about a week from here, from when this video was made. But overall, he's cool. I built mine on a speed taunt set with no effect resistance. I think ultimately, I believe it's probably better to play effect resistance here and just reduce his speed by a lot. But it doesn't matter. So I play a speed taunt. You see, I have some decent speed on him. I have some decent attack. And I have some decent crit chance and crit damage. I wish if I had triple S imprint here, since his imprint is crit chance, I would be able to increase his crit damage a lot more. Otherwise, that's the best I could do. He's on you can tell he's on decent gear. Like his damage is pretty insane for the attack stat. This is probably the only stat that's actually useless. But I do like the HP here, and just because the little gimmick with Janua is that I like him, so when he take an S3 from something like Ron, he will not activate, right? Oh no, not activate. He will not activate his passive immortality, so he won't take lethal damage. And the big point about not taking lethal damage here is that it will mean that it means anyone who plays like Ron, right? They would usually like to rely on Ron S3 doing enough damage on a soul burn to push out Janua's passive, right? That leads to his immortality popping. And since his immortality pops, it's very easy just to kill him because he had no more protection. But since I have him as slightly bulkier, he probably will survive it, and he will be able to push and screw over those Ron teams who especially rely on him. Artifact is obviously Wind Rider. Wind Rider is by far the best artifact on him, and that's just because it increases his attack, which is cool. But the big point is that it gives him stealth, which means that when he kills someone, it's really hard to just deal with him because he's hidden, and then he's gonna be protected behind like a wall. So like from there, he's just really impossible to deal with. Next up, Jacko. So Jacko is my cleave unit I use primarily for Guild Wars. I sometimes cleave with her, especially if my opponent is making poor drafting like mistakes. Otherwise, she's on a speed pen set. She's on decent speed, so you want her speed. Actually, I would recommend her speed to be faster, like 230, 240. But this is just enough to eke out a move. Her attack is really low. I would like her attack to be like 3.5k, but that's just because I don't have imprints. Her crit damage is really high for Jacko. I see 300% usually. 324% is just higher than usual. And you can tell that the speed pen set, a lot of my stats are just obviously coming from my gear here, right? Of course, she has a bit of bulk here just to make sure she doesn't just get one shot by Elvis. But otherwise, you play with like Ron, or you play with like Payra if you think you can one shot. Then you play Jacko CO push with like you CO push, and then you one shot a target. And by one shotting a target, you can then use that ability to basically obliterate one target or two, and then use that tempo to basically start cascading down on your opponent's team. Artifact wise, Mercer's Gluttony is the artifact of choice. It's the best artifact for her because she's all single target damage, so it increases damage dealt. On top of that, when it increases damage, when she also defeats a target with a single target, she increases the allies of all allies except for herself. This is just really good because she already can take 2 turns, and you're going to rely on her to kill anyways. And since her S3 also gets a 20% CO push when the enemy is killed, you'll probably get a 29, almost 30% CO push here. And a 30% CO push is basically brutal, especially as a cleaver. You're basically just going to do enough damage. You're going to overrun your opponent because you're going to keep taking turns, right? And with enough cycling, you can probably use Jacko to be able to take 2 turns on whoever's fast. That's enough to do it. Next up, Shuna. Shuna here is she's funny. I don't really pick her as often anymore just because of how the meta has shapen. Due to the fact that it's really hard to really play her effectively, due to the fact of how many ways we can ignore ER, how many ways we have units that like Death Dealer Ray, or like units like Blood and Haze, who just simply doesn't care about getting slept. Right? Or like especially for DDR. DDR is usually faster than Shuna, right? But getting DDR going off is a big issue anyways, and DDR is usually built with some effectiveness, so effect resistance, so you're not gonna resist him really. You can see here she's on a speed effect resistance set. Her HP is decently low for Soul Reaver, but a lot of that is just because I tend a lot more to effect resistance just to make sure she doesn't get debuffed. I used to use her a lot against units like who you call there used to be one unit that was really good against Shuna. I think it was Auden. But the thing about Auden is that you just play Death Dealer Ray. If you're dealing with Auden, Death Dealer Ray is just better. Because Death Dealer Ray with the S3, she'll be able to sleep everyone. And then on top of that, he'll be able to S2 to seal push everyone, right? So, Shuna is just really passive. She's too passive for the meta. And then she ends up not being really well used, right? Like, if she was able to take 2 turns here, like she was able to S3, and then take it in turn immediately, and then S2, and if the S2 was like a CO push, she'd probably be like Death Dealer Ray, right? She'd be better. She'd be more passive, more defensive Death Dealer Ray. But for now, she just doesn't do enough compared to other units. Okay, Akali's we're gonna skip because she's PvE. You can see my Akali's is decent speed. Research Care is also PvE. I only use her for I think after Mikala's fight. So that spider abyss for the spider nightmare raid. Milam. This build is okay. It's pretty trash. So I used to use Milam a lot, especially just to deal with Landy. Like that's like almost like a year to 2 ago. But nowadays Milam is kind of not really used anymore. She being able to dispel stealth is too weak nowadays because we have Last Piece Corinne who does it better. She's usually too slow, or she usually just doesn't do enough. She needs to take a turn in order to dispel the stealth. While for Last Piece Corinne, she needs to still take a turn. But she's so fast, you can usually take the turn there anyways. So Milam is just here. I sometimes use her just to like play just have fun in Guild Wars, right? So you play Amin Milam and you know you're faster. So you S3, you CO push the Milam, then use Milam to one shot the Landy. If the Landy somehow in defense, then yeah, you maybe. Otherwise, no, not really used. You can see she's not really leveled. Her gear is not really leveled well. Whatever, right? So she's on crit damage, like speed. This is a pretty awful piece, stuff like that. So her pieces are okay, and it's not really the best. So of course her EE of choice is the S3 because I'm playing a one-shot Milam. I think the S1 EE is usually better if you don't play a one-shot Milam, but you play like a counter Milam. But let's not. I don't play counter Degen, and of course Book is the best. So. But she's just a book holder, and I don't really use her anyway. Lilius. She's only here for Nightmare Raid. I don't really use it for RTA. You could use it for Guild Wars, like especially if you want to draft a Ron-Sanya Lilius defense, right? But like Ron-Sanya Lilius has kind of been like screwed over recently just because there's too many units to deal with it. So overall, it's just like, well, it's not really that great anymore, and you have better options. So yeah, Lilius is not really used as much anymore. She's cool. She does a pretty good amount of damage. Next up, Ravi. Okay, Ravi is actually really decently good now. Ever since her buff makes her basically a pseudo HP scaler. So now her S2 here, at the start of the battle, she gains increased attack proportional to the captain's HP. This basically means she's an HP scaler that's unaffected by injury, like decreasing effect. So compared to all other units, like how most HP scalers, if you injure them enough, they don't really do any damage, right? Ravi is the exception. So Ravi is the unit. She has enough HP scaling. She had HP scaling on her thing that increases her attack. This does not change overall after it's activated. So this is basically means that she gains an attack buff and that's kind of ready. She just sits there. The big thing is that she increases her cover minutes when attacked. That's cool. And then when suffering a crit, she dispels 1 debuff. This is, in my opinion, the dispel 1 debuff is marginal at best. Most of the time, I never really felt it was enough. It didn't really feel like enough because usually, if Ravi would just get debuffed by like 2 things, right? And then she'll probably get crit. She'll dispel like let's say like a Venom, and it'd just be absolutely freaking useless. And it'd be hilarious because she doesn't do anything. Of course, and then of course the big point is that her double drive. She's really good into Lila. She's really good into to Blood Moon Haze. She's really good into Benya, because these are all HP scalers, and her double drive does a pretty good amount of damage. Big point is that I have S1 increased damage, and that's just because you don't really need the double drive increased chance to stun. It's not really important anymore. And increased damage dealt by double drive is cool, but I found that the chance of you getting more than 1 or 2 double drives in the game is pretty low. More likely than not, you get more and more counter, so getting slaughter increase is more important as it increases her HP for healing on her S1. Artifact wise, you want Golden Rose. Golden Rose or Sigurd's Scythe is really good on her. I prefer Golden Rose, and that's just because increasing damage dealt is what, in my opinion, is better than increased attack when below 50% HP. Because usually people like to ignore the Ravi, they don't like to hit the Ravi, right? Out of fear of her countering into a double drive. So what you see is that people don't target her. So with Golden Rose, you will always get the increased damage when you're above 50% HP, which is almost always the case. And on top of that, when you're below 50% HP, you can double drive to basically almost heal the full HP. Artifact wise, you want to play speed, some HP. You want to primarily focus to HP and less into attack. HP is more important for her, as in the more HP you have, the more attack you get. I think the conversion ratio is like 8%. Even though it might not seem a lot, the more it just means that she can be built like a knight, and while doing the damage like a warrior, right? So that basically means she's ridiculously tanky, and she could also do ridiculously high amount of damage, with the only exception being she has no protection. So yeah, so you want to play speed pen, or not speed pen, you want to play counter pen, because counter is the best slot. And then on pen set is, even though it doesn't affect her skill 3, it affects her skill 1, making it do massive amount of damage, especially when you sober. Because you can tell, and she also heals a bit based on the damage, so of course, why not go for it, right? Because she's going to counter anyways. Okay, next up, Edward Elric. Edward Elric, I play injury pen. I don't really use him anymore. Even against like heavy debuff meta, even though I said that this meta was heavy debuff, Edward Elric can't really survive against it. Like if he goes against a Tywin, he just activates a Tywin for free. If he goes against DDR, he just gets slapped and he just gets venomed to death, and he doesn't do any damage. So if you play against Lila, he's too slow, he doesn't do enough. So the problem is that against debuff meta, he doesn't cleanse enough to systematically survive against stuff like that. And of course, if you have immunity, which is probably one of the most important buffs in the game, he's useless, because people will just hit him with skills like debuff that don't strip, like a Tywin S1, just to chip him down because he's freaking useless. So the problem is that Edward Elric is not enough. He doesn't do enough. Even against Cleave, he doesn't do enough. It's easy just to play around him. Like you can literally just you can actually still Jackal Cleave him, because what he really do is you can S3 with like Ron, right? When you put the Stigma, he'll cleanse the Stigma, and then you put a defense break, right? He'll S2, and you just pray that you don't get a 25% chance of getting redirect provoked on the Jackal. If you don't, Jackal S3 will just kill him. Like that's an issue, right? He doesn't do anything. He's only really good against units like Solitary or Snow, because Solitary or Snow will just put so many debuffs, and then Edward will just keep countering by every turn. But like overall, like with other teammates, Solitary will just run him down, especially with DDR, right? He'll just get venomed, and he won't do as much damage as you need him to do. Anyways, actually there's one more before I move on to the next thing. So for PvP, Politis. I put up Destro crit set with Fairy Tale for a Nightmare. This is just anti-Janua tech. So the entire idea is that I pop Janua's passive, right? His passive is Immortality passive, and then I Politis S2 because he activates a non-attack skill, which is his S2. I will S2 with the Politis. I will hit him. I will strip off his Immortality, and right as the Immortality gets stripped off, the Fairy Tale for a Nightmare activates, dealing almost 1.5k damage, just instantly popping him. So it basically just taking off the map. So this is really good. When you think about it, it's really good because it means that Politis will be able to just deal with Janua. But when you think about it, people play Blood Moon Haze, right? And if you play like Blood Moon Haze, Blood Moon Haze will just activate when you know that stat. So why don't you? And nowadays we have Luna, we have Narval. Why would you play Politis over just Janua Narval, right? So Politis is only really good if your opponent's playing a lot of non-attack skills nowadays, and if your opponent plays a lot of non-attack skills, sometimes it may work with a 50% cut. Usually not. Usually it's people just probably play around it, or they just find a way to just ignore it, right? So they just like. Let's say they play like Benya, right? You're just gonna activate Benya with this set. Yeah, let's say you play and then Crown on her is too unstable compared to Ormenta. Like you have like a 20% chance of getting a stun. That's just not enough. Like it's so unusable compared to like getting like the Ormenta stun. Not really used. Yeah. So overall. Politis is only like Politis still used, right? Don't get me wrong. She's really good because of her passive, which reduces seal pushes by 50%. Sure, but otherwise, you don't really see her as often compared to someone like Celine, because Celine simply does more damage and Celine's more of a threat. While Politis is just like a one and done. S2 doesn't really do much damage, and then especially if the opponent's defense broken, and she's more likely than not will probably just activate like someone like Benya or activate someone like Blood Moon Haze, where you don't. Where Celine can actually, even though he might activate like someone like Blood Moon Haze, it's still like a knockout, and then Celine will be stealthed, while Politis would not be stealthed, right? Politis would just be easy picking for Blood Moon Haze, just be one-shotted. Okay. Ice. Pera is my fastest unit in the game. She's 304 speed. Nothing really changed. Actually, from last account review I didn't show. I don't think she was there. So I just built her recently just to deal with someone like Steve Penton Polly, even though I PB'd her now. Steve Penton Polly's greatest weakness is that if she gets unbuffable, the not being able to get her not being able to get her enraged is a big deal. So the idea is that you play her fast. I use her as a speed contested to speed contest a lot of units like Ron, like Pera. Actually not like Pera because I picked Pera. But it's like to speed contest Ron because Pera is only one speed slower. Pera is really good to speed contest against like Faithless Litica because you can play usually people play Faithless Litica, they play Faithless Litica plus a speed imprint, which is usually Veronica. You can play Pera as the speed imprint, and you can start speed contesting this because Pera will be much faster than Faithless Litica usually because of how speed RNG works, not speed RNG, because of how her base speed is 128 compared to Faithless Litica I think is 118 or 121 maybe, but it's not really fast enough, right? Artifact of choice, Goblin Oath. It's just cool, right? It's more effectiveness. I don't like RNL on her because I usually don't want the extra turn usually, because the extra turn sometimes can screw you over. Because sometimes you're like, oh, I want to be in stealth, or I want to be in her passive or her escort for a little bit more than usual. Or no, may screw you over for that, or you may be able to just activate another count. You may be able to activate Elvis for a single target skill because you forced to S1, right? Stuff like that. In terms of gear set, you can tell her gear is really good. She has really good speed set. So you can see a 20 here, another 20, another 20, a 17, a 22, and a 45. So her per piece average is like 19.8 or something ridiculous like that. So this just gives her 304 speed. Okay, her crit chance is awful, right? I'd rather not have crit chance here, have HP. But beggars can be chosen, and this is my best speed gear for this set. So, otherwise, yeah. Let's have Ron. From last time, my Ron from last thing I showed was 301, I think. I slowed him down a bit because I got another kit that will show soon. That got a little bit of a speed gear so I can balance the speed ticket that I have. So I can play 3 speed leaders instead of 1, instead of 2, right? I can play 3 of them. So Ron here, I don't really use Ron as much anymore. He's cleave only in this day and age, but cleave is kind of rough to play because you play against Elbreth, you play against Elena, right? You play against you have to compete against units like a Bishop Euphane who may just AoE counter and just screw you over. You may play against like Naval Captain Lane who may just counter salvo and your team is dead. Stuff like that. Right. So like in terms of like stuff like that, he's only really good if you have Ludwig, which I don't. So Moonlight Ludwig, so Wandering Ludwig, I think. If you don't have Wandering Ludwig or Beckham Warner, he's not really as valued as a pick compared to other units, right? I'd rather Paver, because Paver put up more debilitating debuffs like Unbuffable and Restrict, compared to Ron who puts up Defense Break and Stigmas, but Stigma is a cool debuff, right? But usually you need to bring a book unit with him. That's why I like Eternal Wanderer Ludwig. Yeah, Eternal Wanderer Ludwig, because he's a book holder, right? Recon Warner is also a book holder. So you really need these units, and I don't have them, so I don't really play Ron as much anymore. Right, and on top of that, you really need the best speed gear you can have, because you need him to go first. If your opponent speed contests you, and Ron loses the speed contest, you lose the game. Simple as that, and I don't like playing that risky. So, otherwise, gear-wise, he has decent speed gear. He's pretty, I wouldn't say decent, he has really good speed gear compared to other people. Like, 296 is kind of ridiculous too, yeah. You can tell he had a 19, a 17, a 17, a 20, a 17, and a 45. You can tell his per piece averaged around 18. So this is actually ridiculously good for a Ron, right? So, artifact choice. This is the one time where I say Ornell is actually good on them, and that's just because if you play Ornell, you can S2, Ornell S3, right? And then with that Ornell S3, you can get an S1 and basically just obliterate someone, just instantly kill them. So that's the fun part with Ornell. You can basically get the S3 into defense break, like let's say Usurper, right? And the S1 would do ridiculous amount of damage, especially the opponent's defense break. People underestimate how much damage Ron S1 does, right? Ron S1 I argue Ron S1 does way more damage than Ron S3. The Ron S3 damage is kind of meh. It's just there to put up defense break. But Ron S1 though, it's ridiculously high damage since it penetrates defense and it deals more damage proportional to the amount of HP and scale off its attack. So yeah, cool unit. Ahmed, you know I'm a proprietor of Ahmed. I play a lot of Ahmed in Guild Wars, especially when I play Ahmed and Rinka, especially into like units especially when I see like, let's say I see like Senya defenses, right? I guarantee that I won't crit the Senya. I debuff her, I push her back, I silence her, and then she activates her like little passive thing, and then she puts up unbuffable, she puts up barriers on everyone, and I use Ahmed with the Rinka to basically one-shot her team because they messed up. And they allowed me to they put a barrier on their team, and Rinka would just be able to obliterate anyone. So you can tell, she's on whatever level of gear I could get her for speed gear. So she's on speed, resist. The resistance here is just to make it so she can't be like debuffed by like, let's say like your Lilius, right? So if you go into Lilius, you have a chance of just not getting debuffed, which is just cool, right? Artifact gear-wise, not really great. Like she has 16, 17, 12, 15. Oh. Artifact wise, Phantom Light and Dark is probably her best in the slot. Not for Rinka, just for if you play Kisei, right? But it's like, it's cool. Increasing carbon radius on the top on her S3 doesn't actually increase carbon radius, so this is the artifact that does it. So she can get S2 give like a 30% CO push, and then give an additional 15% CO push, right? Of the person that she would S3 usually because I put them with a high attack, give them swift attack. And then if you can get the crit damage buff, that's amazing. You can use a crit damage buff to basically obliterate anyone you use, right? Okay, next up, Cerise. Cerise is just here just for PvE. I only use her for Light Expo. That's it. She's decently fast for Light Expo. She has crit damage and crit chance because you really need her to survive. So you really need to do a little bit of damage so she can survive it, but you need effectiveness so she can line her debuff. Iron Fan is just because I just don't have a spare, Sonya stars, right? So, just Iron Fan, that's like the best I can do. Alright, that's up, Leafy. I don't have an E yet, I don't have the currency yet to do it, but if I only use it for Guild Wars usually, and that's just because I use it to Guild War against units like, Abyssal Euphine, against Naval Captain Lady, against, I don't know, maybe even like Violet if I felt like it, right? Her entire gimmick is that she's actually pretty safe if you think about it, and she's ridiculously good at just soaking a bit of damage, but overall she's just really good at just sitting there and picking off one person at a time. Her EE is pretty important now, I don't have it yet, but her EE gives her increased HP, and the big point I should mention here is that the increased HP applies to her base, to her HP here, right? And since it applies to HP here, her artifact Player Solitude increases her max HP by 7.5%, which is her max HP at the time of the game starts. So if she had like 28,000, right, she gains 7.5% more HP of that 28,000. It's just how much HP she had at the start. So, since the fact that this EE applies to her HP, it means that she does more damage. She had more HP gain. So this 14% is realistically more like with a 7% increase. It's more like 16%, right? 16% HP increase, which is insane because that's like 2% more HP than you think it is. Size-wise, you play speed HP because HP is the best set on her. With as much speed and HP as you can, defense and attack are okay. Effectiveness is just a dump set. Effective resistance is okay. You don't need crit or crit damage. She can't crit on her big damage skill, which is her S1, which is the Claw of the Abyss. It cannot crit, so there's no point to go crit on it. Next up, Elena. Okay, Elena's gimmick is I built her. I think it was either this patch or last time I did an account review. Elena's entire gimmick here is to punish Ron cleavers, or to punish units like Nakwa, units like Nakwa, units like Pera, right? The entire game is that you play speed with effect resistance, right? And you want to try to build as much speed as you possibly can. I tried my best with speeding. The speed gear is not really great. You want some decent bulk. You want as much effect resistance and some no effectiveness. You want as much effect resistance as possible. If you are playing against a Luna, we're playing against like a Luna style, right? So you're playing against a Mula Luna, right? You want her to counter Mula Luna. You play 270 speed with something like Soul Constellation, right? But if you're just using her to counter AoE, you play speed resist on Megahertz Tome. Since her S2 grants a 20% CO push, I think. 20% CO push, and it's a non-attack skill. It will activate Megahertz Tome, which will increase her CO by another 30%. So basically, she has a 50% CO push. This basically means you don't have to build her ridiculously fast because she'll be able to go against a run and just cut the round, like cut whoever comes next if it's not regular Moana, right? Which is really amazing for a unit like this. Overall, I only use it if my opponent is just running a lot of AoE cleave. So if I see like a Ron, right? If I see a Ron, and I know and I don't see any major follow-up after a Ron, I pick her. Even if I get sober with the Sigma, which reduces CO push by 50%, it doesn't matter because I will still feel CO push by around 25%, which is probably enough to be able to cut into the front of the line. So, otherwise, yeah. Dean, I don't really use it anymore. Dean is kind of like falling off as a Soul Reaver. She has no healing. She's all buffing, but all buffing doesn't really help since she's really easy to play around, and it's really easy to put unbuffable on everyone, or it's really easy just to stun everyone. So the fact that she doesn't have immunity and she doesn't have any proactive skills means she doesn't really do anything. She just puts RNG on the field with crit chance and probably attack buff and a bit of barrier. That's cool, right? She doesn't have strong enough healing to survive. The artifact wise, you can play Fading Memories. You can play what's the other artifact? Rod. You can play like whatever. You can play like Rod. You can play. It's Rod, right? I don't know what's it called. Rod Amaryllis. So you can play Rod. So Rod is okay, right? But it's like, well, she is not as great as other Soul Reavers because she's not proactive. She has no CO pushing gimmick that like says like out of turn CO pushing. Not like, oh, if opponent does this, she gains 20% CO or something like that. She doesn't have that. So she's just really passive, and being too passive is not good enough in this meta. Otherwise, you can tell if you want to play Dean, you want to build on defense with HP, some speed and some effective resistance, because you have to make sure she cannot be debuffed. Because since she's reactive and not proactive, you need the effective resistance. If you don't have effective resistance, she'll just get debuffed and she becomes useless. That's another issue with her. If she gets debuffed, she gets stunned or something like that, right? She's useless. She just sits there and you just laugh as she compared to other Soul Reavers, she absolutely does nothing. Next up, Amomo is just PvE, right? Amomo is fully built, whatever. Karina is, I have her, she's the person I have on Rocket Punch. She's on a speed defense set with some decent speed. Her HP is relatively low, like 14,000 HP is okay. I use her just to one-shot clear team, so 14,000 HP doesn't really matter. Because I use her just to like put behind something like a Benya. So it basically means if you activate Karina, you activate Karina, but if you activate Benya, you also activate Benya easier because Karina's pretty low HP. She has really high defense for the Knight class, but she'll probably be pushed up to like probably 2,000 defense if I got all her inputs. Otherwise, with all of this, she'll probably obliterate any squishy unit with her S3, and her splash will probably obliterate a bunch of squishy units as well. So otherwise, her speed, I recommend, if you play speed set, I recommend playing around 100, 200 to 210 speed, if you can, because you need her to really cut. So that's the point you play speed set here, you make her cut. After an ally falls below 50%, you CO push against a cleave team, and you just absolutely overrun them. Just a weakness nowadays, it's easy to defense break, so it's really easy just to get around her. And the meta has really slowed down enough to like a debuff meta with a bunch of anchors like Blood Moon Haste, like Benya. So one-shotting a cleave team is not as valuable anymore, because it activating like Blood Moon Haste is really bad for you. And it activating it won't activate Benya because it does proc damage, but Benya is too tanky, and Karina doesn't really do enough to like kind of deal with the Benya, right? If you accidentally touch the person in the back, they probably will activate Benya anyways. So yeah. Next up, Shu. This is a okay Shu. She has 22,000 HP, which is pretty decent. Her defense is okay. Her attack is pretty high, because I think her attack should be like 1,500. If you don't have any attack rules. Her crit chance is okay. It should be 100% because you want 100% crit. Her crit damage is also pretty okay because her Foosh will hurt. So she's on a crit. She's on a speed pen. Not speed pen. She's on a counter pen. Artifact wise, you want Snow Crystal? Sure. Like Snow Crystal is just add an extra layer on G, just in case you don't get crit, and you get CO push when you don't take a crit. Her S3 also gets crit res, which is pretty cool. So she has 70% crit res when she has that buff up. The E of choice must be S1. You cannot go for the other E's because they don't do enough. The EE1 here is the most important E because of the fact that she can S1 into an S2 Foosh is really powerful. It means she can basically destroy a bunch of the fire units in the game by just picking her. Just nowadays, the weakness of her is that there's enough injury in the game that Shu kind of just dies. Like, if you pick like a Shu, the opponent will probably pick like Urban Shadow Shu, like her Moonlight equivalent, who basically destroys her. Because it destroys her HP, and as an HP scaler, losing like half her HP is enough to basically make her really squishy, and both make her really squishy and not enough damage. So, injury is just prevalent in the meta, especially with units like DDR. She's pretty easy to control. So stuff like that, and in the end, she's not really as valuable anymore. Not compared when she was first buffed and she became a lunatic, became like a Charles, right? Like the Ice Charles. She's not as prevalent in that meta anymore because of debuffs. Lastly, for PvP, we have Luna. Not Luna. We have Kisei, my favorite. I don't know how I messed that up, but Kisei is my favorite character in the game. She is on my pen speed. She is only really used for guild wars nowadays, right? I use her to play Kisei Ime Cleave, especially my opponent. If I see my opponent is mid-range or like decently tanky, but not tanky enough to survive an Ime Kisei Cleave, then I will pick Ime Kisei. I will take first turn. I will CO push Kisei into S3 into an S2, right? And that would be enough to basically obliterate any character in the game except for Benya and Blood Moon Haste, obviously. But if I see Blood Moon Haste and Kisei like that, I would just S3 with I would just soul burn with like Moonlight Luna just to make sure that they can't do anything, and then just use it just to one shot the Blood Moon Haste because the pen. Gear wise, I put Portrait of Saviors because since I play here with Onward, I will almost always use it to one shot someone at like 100% HP. So this Portrait of Savior increases damage by a lot, basically allowing her to basically 100-0 someone. EE choice, I would probably prefer to have EE2 now instead of EE3 because of what I play her. But if you use her in OTA, EE3 is probably the best because decreasing buff duration means you can decrease the buff duration of something like a barrier, right? So, so like if you can take away the barrier, that's cool. You can take away the barriers to do even more damage. But I feel like the S2 is more important now because the S2 has the pen, and since the S2 has the penetration when you're stealth, right, it increases by up to 50%. That's a lot of pen. It basically means Kisei S2 with an attack buff will probably do around like 20,000 damage. That's just how my Kisei works. You can tell my Kisei I built with 4,000 attack, as much attack as possible, with 100% crit chance and as much crit damage as possible. The reason you need that is because you need her to be, what you call it, you need her to just do as much damage as possible, one-shot everyone. And the big thing too is I have a speed set, or I have 174 speed, right? The only reason that she's on low speed is because I play Amid, like as I said, I play Amid. So this is speed tune, so she will get the field push enough to be able to out push anyone if Amid is the one who goes first. So, anyways, next my tank buster for the team is Midnight God Lilius. She's on a speed torrent set, which is required. She's on attack. She has really high attack. You don't need HP on her, so this is actually like about 400 above her minimum HP you possibly get on her on one torrent set. And then she don't need crit. You want as much speed as you possibly can on her and as much crit damage as you possibly can. By doing this, it means that she does pretty insane whopping damage. And being fast means that she will probably outspeed units like Lila. She'll obviously outspeed units like Benya, right? But since she outspeed units like Lila, the big deal is that by outspeeding units like Lila, she will be able to S3 into Lila, basically either if not outright killing her, doing enough damage that you'll probably be really close to killing her. So whoever follows will just kill the Lila, and that only takes out one big issue off the map. So gear wise, you can tell based on my speed, I have pretty decent speed gear with decent attack stats, right? And then like you can tell this has really high speed. Effect resistance is an okay dump stat, so you can tell she has really good speed and she has really good attack. Effectiveness is useless, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah, she's pretty nice. I can probably take away this HP flat here for like I don't know effect resistance, right? To get her HP to be below 7,000, because you do need 16,000 HP below your opponent in order to do mass pen. But I don't really bother. I only use it to hit 26,000 HP targets anyways, and that's way above it anyways. So. Artifact wise, Wind Rider is the best because you want, if she kills someone with the attack buff and everything, she'll probably go into stealth, right? And by going into stealth, she'll be untargetable and they'll guarantee that she'll be able to get the S1, and she can with the attack buff, she can probably start cascading. She can probably kill one person. She kill a tank, right? She cycles 50% CR, and then she goes again. She one-shots a squishy, so she goes into stealth again. She one-shot another squishy, she goes into stealth again. So she can start cascading and be unstoppable, because especially with the rolling technique of being able to just keep attacking, right? Next up, Lila. What can I say? Lila is just my favorite first pick because she's super safe. She is a standard first pick. She's very she does it all. She's a ticking time bomb. You have 4 or 5 turns to kill her before she can activate her skill 3, which is probably a one-shot on any mid-range to squishy target, right? She is a cleanser. Her S2 is a full cleanse. Her artifact, which is the Sweet Miracle here, right? It provides, it gives her the ability so she can decrease the buff duration by 1 turn like Hand Guy, basically making her immune to 1-turn debuffs. She has her S2. Her S2 when it's her S2 decreases combat and decreases cooldown on all allies for the castle by 1 turn, basically making her allow you to deal with Lua, deal with Knockwall, right? Her S3 reduces skill cooldown when this is being off cooldown, allowing her to basically be immune to Knockwall, be immune to Rekkawana, be immune to Lua, not be immune to both of them at the same time, but be immune to one or the other. Or one or the other, or any other thing, right? This passive is super strong. It allows her to basically, on top of that, she also can be picked with Lila, because her S2, since her S2 reduced, not Lila, you play with Lua to replay with Knockwall. Since her S2 reduces cooldown by 2 turns, and Lua and Knockwall, the S2 cooldown is 2 turns, right? And Lila reduces cooldown by 1 turn. It means that you can S3, S2 with Knockwall, you can seal someone, then you can F2 with Lila to get another seal from Knockwall. By whenever she goes around the seal ball again, she will be able to seal right after that. Again, so we'll be able to seal twice in 2 turns. That is ridiculously strong against really passive reliant teams, which is especially like units like Bug and Haze, right? Okay, next up we have and of course you want to play speed HP. You want to build her as much speed as possible. So you can see I have decent speed gear on her. Not the best. I'd rather have like 20 speed here and 20 speed here. But beggars can't be choosers, and this is the best I can really do. Alright, 20 speed here and 20 speed here will mean I will get 15 more speed, which means she'll be 280. And 280 is kind of where you want to be, because it means that you probably guarantee being close to taking first turn, right? If not first. That's really good. Zahak. I don't really use Zahak anymore, even in OTA or even in Guild Wars, because I have Shoutier. The Shoutier is just simply better than Zahak. I just want to kill this evasion unit, right? He's a cool unit still. You can S2, S3 to basically a one-shot to basically cleanse off a teammate, and then S3 to one-shot someone like Aiden, one-shot someone like Violet. The issue with him is that his S2 is an extra turn skill, so people will usually play beat on with you against you at RTA. And in Guild Wars, which is a super controlled environment, the issue comes down to the fact that maybe he just doesn't do enough, right? He has to use a non-attack skill, which is very susceptible to discipline. He has to use he likes to only really one-shot someone, which is very susceptible to something like Bum and Haste, right? He doesn't go into stealth, so it's very easy to pick off, even though he has the invincibility. So he's just gonna sit here, and he's just gonna eventually die. So he's an all-in character, and if he doesn't get the all-in correctly, he just dies. Artifact-wise, gear-wise, you want as much speed as possible on him. You need him to go first, but you also need to balance with his attack. So you see I have decent speed gear. This speed gear is pretty awful, right? But otherwise, she has decent speed gear. He's decently fast, and he does decent amount of damage overall. HP is a fine subset to roll for him, because being more bulky is cool, right? Next up, Blooming Ludica. What can I say about Blooming Ludica? Or Ludica, as people call her. She's an amazing control unit. She is basically what she does is that when you put a debuff that when you attack and then that attack applies a debuff, or you attack into a debuff target, right? If you attack someone and that target, or at least one of the targets that you hit is debuffed, she will activate her S2, which basically does an AOE unbuffable on everyone, and then it basically just puts unbuffable, which is really cool. And the unbuffable since she scaled off her own speed, and then she gains speed proportional to how many debuffs. This is also really helpful. So the big thing is that you need her to be like, I think 160 speed above the target you're trying to hit, which is really easy if you're playing against someone like Moonlight Landy, right? But if you're trying to one-shot someone like Ron, that's not going to happen. It doesn't matter unless the Ron is D-gen, that you're not going to kill. So only reason she's good is because of her artifact. Her artifact said after she uses an extra attack, which is her S2, she would decrease counter awareness by 50%. Decreasing counter awareness is ridiculously strong. It means that she indirectly acts as a follow-up, right, to any type of cleave you're trying to do, or any type of aggro you're trying to do. Because let's say you Zeo S3, right? You Zeo S3, you silence someone. Now this will activate the Booming Ludica. She will reduce debuff duration by 1 turn on her S. I think it's reduced, right? Yeah, she reduced debuff duration by 1 turn and put unable to be buffed. This is nice because what this means is that she will be able to CO push back everyone on the opponent team by 50%, allowing allowing you to cleave to be less likely to be interrupted by CO pushes, like some random CO pushes. And then she put unbuffable. She's basically a counter to Karina, because if you can unbuffable Karina, her S3 doesn't do as much damage. So yeah. Set wise, speed set is mandatory. You need speed set and you need HP set. You can play effectiveness, but I found HP set to be a lot better because she scales off her max HP, and you want as much HP as you can in order to really do more damage. So you can tell I have okay HP. I'd rather have like 24,000 and 25,000 HP to do more damage, but 22,000 is a good starting point, and it's okay because I don't really focus on putting good gear on her compared to other units, right? Oh, that's up. Ray. Ray's only used for Rift right now. He is the best Soul Weaver other than Bernard. If you're playing Rift, right? That's it. So if you're playing Rift, just play Speed, Resist. Just play some of the Fed Resistance, and just play as much. Just play a bit of healing, like Rod Amaryllis, and his EE is just the S1 EE. And just make sure he just goes first, right? Make sure he goes first, but he's not too fast. So make sure he's first because you want to cleanse out all the Venoms and all the unbuffable from the boss, and that's kind of really it. Otherwise, I don't really have much to mention. No one uses him for PvP. Simple as that. Ocean Breeze Ludica. Ocean Breeze Ludica is insanely strong if you're a slow player. So you play someone like Aeuphine, you play someone like Melanie, you play someone like Crimson Orman. Ocean Breeze Ludica is probably one of the best Soul Reavers. She is basically the takedown Soul Reaver. Because what she can do is that she is proactive. So if your opponent uses a non-attack skill, she CO pushes. That's cool, right? Your opponent, and then on top of that, she also has pretty high Fed resistance, and her S3 cleanses two debuffs, and it puts up defense buff, which is actually really strong. So defense buff basically makes your team even tankier than usual. And in the case of Aeuphine, it makes Aeuphine both really tanky, and then also do more damage because she's a defense scaler. Gear-wise, I built mine to be a lot more tankier than usual. Her HP is unusually tanky. Most people you see on Ocean Breeze Ludica, they probably have like 14,000, 15,000 HP. I'm running at 18,000, and that's just because I want her to not get one shot, right? And she has pretty decent defense. Her speed's okay. This is 216 is enough to cut a bit of the more speedy aggro picks, but not enough to really cut units like Ron or like Zio, right? Or like Jacko. But it doesn't really matter because she's just here just to be annoying. She's here to have the Fed resistance to basically not get debuff, allowing her to really get her stuff off. Artifact of choice, Dawning Ice Crystals is cool. It's probably, if you're playing slow, it's her best in slot. If you're playing to control your opponent, like anti-cleave control your opponent, you play Soul Constellation. Golden Ice Crystals allows her to heal outside of her turn, which basically allows her to be to have situation because she only has one healing, which is her S3. But so if you can do that, it's cool. She will be able to keep pushing, right? Gear wise, you can tell she has okay speed gear, but you can tell she has a lot of HP and a lot of Fed resistance compared to other units. But it just makes her ridiculously tanky. Right, and if you have to have a dump stat, you can dump into effect resistance or into effectiveness, right? Effectiveness is okay. Next up, Rimu. Rimu Tempest is only really good if your opponent has a bunch of powerful debuffs on the field initially. So you're playing against someone like Midnight Galileuthis, right? You can use Rimu to S2 back to Midnight Galileuthis, and then get her buff, get the Galileuthis buff that reduces the max HP limiter. So the max HP limiter, it basically means Rimu is pretty good into that. Rimu is also pretty good into Selene, because when Selene S2, she's stealth and stuff, right? But since her S2 is not the thing that gets her the evasion, with a high enough damage Rimu build, you can basically one-shot the Selene what Ashley decides to S2. So Rimu is a pretty good pick into Selene, especially if your opponent's really reliant on Selene. But usually it's not. I don't really recommend it because sure, Selene will probably be able to just S3 and kill the Rimu, especially if it's a DPS Rimu and if the Selene's tanky. Gear wise, you want her on immunity with speed set. Immunity here is just so she doesn't get debuffed by something like a Pyroclasm Fawn, right? So she doesn't just get bombed. That'd be awful. And then she has speed set, and then speed set here is just to speed her up. I do wish she had more crit. He has more crit here. Like this ring is awful because it doesn't have any crit chance or any speed. Otherwise, like, he's cool. He's a cool unit to pick up. So I would recommend playing him if you can, but he's not a priority pick. Artifact wise, his best artifact is inside Victoria's flag, because it decreases damage dealt, making him a tankier, and then when he attacks, he increases damage dealt. And this only applies to RGB units. Remove being RGB is really nice. It basically means Remove can do pretty high amount of damage when he has to. Loka, let's skip Loka and Lysaria. These are both PvE units. You can see the Song of Stars that I have is put on Loka. Loka is used for Ice Expo. Lysaria is your bread and butter for Tamron. Bellona is for Rift. I only use her for the current Ice Rift because she's really good. She's the best defense breaker that we have for Ice Rift. Okay, Destina. Destina nowadays is usually too slow. Like getting the revive is cool and all, but compared to other units, her healing is not as great compared to a unit like Blood Moon Haze. Like Blood Moon Haze can revive the team, right? And he's more proactive because he can deal pretty high amount of damage while being able to one-shot someone and then revive the team. So Destina is really passive nowadays. Sure, she might not be able to get debuff because you can say, hey, I have like 250% of 300% effect resistance, right? The problem with Destina is that Destina is really weak to situations where you can get reset by something like regular Warner. You still get soul burned by Knockwall and still get resisted. So in the end, boohoo, like Destina, if Destina just gets reset, she's a useless unit. She doesn't do anything, right? Her best insult is Golden Ice Crystals, but I found Golden Ice Crystals is just not enough. Like, it's like, of all the other Soul Reavers, I'd rather put Golden Ice Crystals on someone like Summer Breeze, Ocean Breeze, Ludica than to put on Destina. And I don't really use Destina anymore. She's too slow compared to other. She's too reactive compared to other Soul Reavers. Like especially like Blood Moon Haze. Like Blood Moon Haze is way more proactive than her. And being more proactive in this matter is more important. You can't just sit here and hope you can get your turn. You have to be able to pick a unit who will be able to make your opponent make a decision that they don't like to do. So like the decision here for like Destina is reset her. Play something like reset her and that's it, right? Next up, Celine. Celine is actually really good. So Celine is really good at your opponent is uber reliant on a non-attack skill. So like you see like they play like Sea Phantom Poly, right? Sea Phantom Poly will activate Celine S2. Celine S2 will be able to hit someone. It would do massive amount of damage. And then her S2 will the big point is when she got a buff, her S2 grants 10 souls, right? Which is really, really good. And then it will increase confidence by 30%. Also really good. The big point, her S3 Soul Burn deals so much damage. It can probably obliterate a tank. That's why she's so good now, because she makes your opponent not want to use a non-attack skill. Because if she S2 and let's say she hits a squishy unit, her S2 will probably obliterate the squishy unit. And then since she gets 30% CO push, and then she probably get an attack buff from Secret or Stone Sword, right? She gets an additional like 25% CO push, right? All this combined means she's getting a 55% CO push. She's getting 10 souls. She's going to soul burn that skill 3, and she's going to obliterate whoever she touches next. So all this combined means she is a nasty unit to pick. She is so nasty that she will she can basically make your opponent not want to skill 2 or like skill 3, not use a non-attack skill, right? Makes your opponent not want to do anything, and then this basically out of fear that she'll just one-shot a tanky unit, or she'll one-shot like the if she won't one-shot the squishy unit, she at least will get a stun on that unit, and assuming that person has no effect resistance. If that person has no effect resistance and get the stun, that's brutal because that's one unit that just can't do anything unless they get cleansed, right? And that doesn't mention the fact that Celine will still go and she'll still one-shot whoever it is. So the thing about this Celine is that sometimes you can get lucky. You can S2 to Poly. You can somehow get a random S2 into the Sea Phantom Poly, and just like that, one shot the Sea Phantom Poly. Like you just like obliterate her right as she wasn't able to really do anything. Build wise, I opted for a Destro build, so a Destro pen set, which basically means that she has ridiculously high damage. We don't question it, right? Heavy damage means more damage. more damage for you to on the S3 to do way more damage. That is a good setup. And that basically means you can basically, I can use her to basically one-shot any target I want, right? I can probably, the only unit I probably can't one-shot is Benya, and that's Benya was the target of the S2. So an S2 into S3 Soban against a Benya will probably kill. It will kill most Benyas because most Benyas are 32,000 HP, right? And you can just kill them because then your Celine S3 will do like 25,000, S2 would do like 20,000, and that would be like an obliteration, right? Just obliterate them. That's assuming that this is a Benya with 32,000 HP with probably like 1.3k defense. Not like uber tanky, right? Okay, Leo is PvE, Banshee one shot. Alencia, compared to when I showed her last time, I don't use her anymore. She used to have Edward artifact here, which is the full metal auto mail. Alencia kind of got her spot taken by someone like Shu. Urban Shadow Shu, not Shu. So Urban Shadow Shu just does her job but better. Like, and on top of that, she's so susceptible to getting stunned and getting controlled, and she's kind of slow as a unit. That if you're playing against like injury units, she'll probably just get obliterated by someone like Urban Shadow Shu. She'll get obliterated by someone like Benya before she'll be able to actually really act and really do anything. Right, she'll get obliterated by DDR before she can actually really take a turn. And being obliterated by DDR is already like it's like a master class of getting destroyed. So yeah, you don't really pick her anymore. She is just, if you have injuries issues, just play DDR, right? If you have, or play Urban Shadow Shu, or coming up pretty soon, just play Moonlight Ilanov. Like Moonlight Ilanov's coming pretty soon. Just play Ilanov. She's better. Ilanov is better than Chen. More proactive. Okay, that's up Sharoon. I don't know what to really say much about Sharoon. Sharoon is still decent if your opponent's playing hand guy. If your opponent's playing hand guy, you can play a chicken game of hand guy. And you basically make it so hand guy cannot skill 3, because if hand guy skill 3, you go to S3 and be able to cleanse all of it. If hand guy is too slow, you go to S3 anyways, get the CO push from the 50% from the S3, then S1 to reset the hand guy, basically make him useless. She's okay as a Venom unit. It's just nowadays we have Death Dealer Ray. So you're gonna hear me mention a lot of times. Death Dealer Ray, Death Dealer Ray simply does way more stuff than Sharoon. So the problem is that Sharoon is kind of like outclassed by those kind of units compared to other that. So sadly, I'll use her sometimes to deal with units like I said, hand guy. Sometimes Lila. Otherwise, not really. Vivian, Banshee one shot. Landy, well, you can see she's on good. I don't use her anymore. Landy's still good if your opponent is playing buff heavy, but that's only if your opponent is playing buff heavy and they just don't have any way to reveal her. If Landy gets revealed and you play like that, she's dead. If you play really fast, you may just not have enough damage. You accidentally like charge someone like Agufine. You accidentally activate Blood Moon Haze for all I care. Whoops! You activate Blood Moon Haze, Landy's gonna take the big fat L and she's gonna die. So, like, yeah, Landy is okay. She's still good. She's just outclassed because as a DPS, she's really easy to reveal because we have a last piece Corinne. She's really easy to just look at, stuff like that. Like, no one really plays anymore. If you people play her, they probably would play like a 290 Landy just to CO push and play aggro. Like, people don't play standard Landy anymore. Next up, Arunka. As I mentioned, Arunka is my 2-go Guildwards unit against barriers. You saw she has pretty high attack. She has 6.7k attack. She has 184 speed. This is just enough, just like as I said, to get CO push by Almond. And all the other stats are useless. HP is cool. Just make her take here. And she has Little Queen Huge Crown. This just means that she'll do even more damage against barrier unit. She has her S3 with the EE3. EE3 just means that she can get the Armored Swift Attack, which is 50% CO push, and then she can get a 30% CO push, basically almost guaranteeing that she can take another turn right after she S3 one-shot someone, right? So she can one-shot someone, and then she can one-shot a second person. Basically allowing you to one-shot 2 people in Guild Wars, just like that. That's really good. Otherwise, no, not really. You don't use an RTA. Okay, Albedo. I don't know what to say about Albedo. Albedo is amazing. She's She is probably the best knight in the game if your opponent is playing clean, because what she does is that she provides 20% damage reduction on her S2 and her mine's not lowered. She provides 20% crit damage reduction, which will also stack with things like Aureus, right? It does not stack with damage reduction overall. So like if you have something like, okay, to take 15% less damage, this thing doesn't stack on it. But what it means is that if you have like you're playing like Albedo, right? And you say, oh, your opponent has a lot of crit, you can basically reduce the crit by 20%. You reduce the damage from the crit by 20%. That is insane amount of damage mitigation. If you have an Aureus, that basically means that 20% damage reduction on top of a 20% redirection of that 20% of that damage that already been reduced. That's a lot of damage reduction. That basically means that she will basically be impossible to deal with. And the big thing, the big part too, is that if you play a counter HP set with like ridiculously high HP on 3F, she's actually a decent damage dealer. Her S1 deals like, as we saw in FS7 World Championship, her S1 could do like 6,000 to 8,000 damage with 3F. It's ridiculous. She can probably one-shot a Gala just by herself. Oh yeah, man, speaking of Gala, Albedo is a counterfeit to Gala, because the 20% damage reduction on it means that Gala probably wouldn't kill. And if your opponent is really relying on Gala to kill here, that's amazing. I mean, you just kind of screwed over your opponent. So, thumbs up for me. Lastly, on the greens, we have Wana. I don't really have much to say about Wana. She's really good in Guild Wars if your opponent is AoE heavy, so counter heavy. So your opponent has like, I don't know, Baline, right? But you know Baline's on Eldritch Ritual Sword. Your opponent has like, I don't know, Aurea, right? And you know Aurea's there. You play Wana, and Wana will be able to basically make your team be impossible to kill. And that's just injury, right? But your team would be impossible to kill, because anytime you take a counter, you just heal and CO push it back. So, is it fun? Yeah, it's fun. But the weakness for her is that, if you were to ask me, her HP is really awful here. You really want like 23,000 HP. I just don't really have to gear to invest into her, to invest into speeding her up. But overall, her effect resistance is pretty nice. Being able to that's pretty good effect resistance. But overall, I don't really like it. Her speed's okay. You don't really need her fast. You're just using her to counter counters. So, what's the point? Is my unit built? No. Okay. So last time I showed my unit was I ungeared my Luna for someone. You see. I think it was Albedo. Yeah. So I ungeared Yuha for Albedo because Albedo's just better, as I mentioned. So Yuha I don't really use anymore. And then Wukong is only for Rift. Okay, to the home stretch. My new unit that I just got like 2 days ago, when I recorded this video. Yeah, I got her from a basis summon, so you can call it ONG, whatever, right? Or Jesus, you can say Luxac, whatever. So, but Moonlight Luna is busted. She is in OTA, in Guild Wars, in Arena. She is absolutely freaking busted. What she does is that you can put Book on her. You can Soul Burn the S3 to ignore effect resistance, dispel all buffs on the opponent, right, except for undispellable. Put a seal on everyone and put an unbuffable on everyone. And of course she starts with a skill effect nullifier. Skill effect nullifier means that she cannot, if you have immunity set, right, strips usually come first. So when your opponent, like, let's say they S3 with Zeal, right, the strip will be absorbed by the skill effect nullifier, but the seal the silence will not. But the silence will hit an immunity, which means nothing will happen. And since a lot of the units strip first before they apply debuff, this means Moonlight Luna with immunity set is immune to any form of control that isn't just like a booming Ludica, right? You do something like Para Esther, right? You get rid of the effect skill nullifier, and then booming Ludica activates. She strips off the immunity and then she applies the debuff. That would be enough to get around it. But that needs 2 units. Even though I mentioned an immunity set, I don't have immunity set here because I don't have better immunity gear to really boost up her speed here. So if you just don't have the immunity gear, the second best option is just to put 2 broken sets and just pray you outspeed. So that's why she's 296 speed. She's my second. She's tied for second right now for being fastest, and this is why I don't have a mute set. So it's like I'm just playing just to outspeed it. So I don't play her in OTA, so I can't really have experience with her because I banned this unit in OTA because of how I play slow. She's so devastating that if your opponent picks slower than you, if you pick slower than Luna, you may just lose because Luna will just probably just she'll press skill 3 and she'll activate a non-attack. She won't activate like Celine because she seals Celine. She won't activate Polly because she seals Polly. Right? She won't activate Blood Moon Haste and like ban yet the Let's Go on. She basically counters anyone with a passive. I mean, she shut all of that down, which is insane. Next up, Congo Lilius. Okay, Congo Lilius is last time I showed her she was faster. She was 289 last time I showed her, I think. I slowed her down in favor of New Moon Luna because New Moon Luna is just more devastating. Otherwise, she's still pretty fast. 284 is still pretty fast. I mean, still pretty fast Congo Lilius for a 121 base speed unit. Her artifact I choose is Nostalgia's Music Bot. It's probably her best in slot because the random buff here is really good. It can be Barrier, which is awful. Increased defense, which is good if you have Aufine. Immunity, which is ridiculously good. If you get immunity, you're basically saying like I have a free immunity set on someone for free. So yeah. Artifact. Oh yeah, I need to show them. Okay, you can tell she has some really good speed gear. Okay, don't mention it. She has really good speed gear. Okay, Congo Lilius. So she has decent speed gear. You can see 19, 16, 20, 17, 16. Okay, 45, but that's obvious. But like, so you can tell her piece average is pretty close to 17. It is 17, so 17.5. So the piece average is really good. So 17.5 is pretty average. It's pretty good. That's an average speed set roll for most people. So yeah, she's faster than most people. Next up, B Domino, Moon Bunny Domino, B Dom. B Dom. You use her as a counterpart to GDR and like Conquer Lilius and Knockwall. Otherwise, you don't use her with the user, right? Like, I don't believe in the idea of picking B-Dom just to spite your opponent, so your opponent cannot beat B-Dom. I find that usually it's too weak because B-Dom doesn't do enough. B-Dom is kind of an all-in character if you play like that. But if you play her defensively against DDR, it means that you're playing defensively. She becomes more of a defensive unit. Overall, you want to build her on some effect resistance, but you want to build her specifically on speed resist. With Doctor's Bag is okay. Before Doctor's Bag was good because she didn't clench on her skill 3. Nowadays, Doctor's Bag is just more healing. That's it. I think it's better nowadays to instead of playing B-Dom on you play B-Dom on something like Doctor's Bag, you play B-Dom on something like Soul Constellation, right? Doctor's Bag is still a good pick because Doctor's Bag means your opponent, even though they can activate the they can still use like Seality as to redirect provoke someone. You can use B-Dom to cleanse that off. So your opponent doesn't use a non-attack skill or doesn't use an extra turn. You can punish whatever debuff they send out by just Doctor Bag cleansing it. So that's why Doctor Bag is also a pretty decent pick nowadays. Otherwise, you can tell I didn't put her in concentration. I'd rather have the attack percent boost here because I use her more as a support, less as a field to stay. So her gear wise, she has a decent speed gear, right? I want her decently fast. So that's kind of it. That's just really it. Solitaria Snow. Okay, she has the second crown I have. Solitaria is not really well used anymore in this modern day. She's too easy to counter because her S1 is a guaranteed AoE follow-up attack, and she only gets rid of focus, so you don't use it if your opponent just has no focus, right? So, like, she's really good. Your opponent has Urban Shadow Shoe. Your opponent has Sylvan Sage Vivian. OP as hell, because she basically is a force band against those units, because if you can't get focus on units who require focus, she wins, right? She's really good into Remnant Violet, because Remnant Violet is a focus unit. So she shuts down focus, but if your opponent doesn't really play focus, like if your opponent plays like how I play like Ludica, Ocean Breeze Ludica, I don't really care if she has focus or not. So Solitary Snow's kind of useless. Because I don't care if she has focus. I'm just here just to put up the defense buff and just laugh as my opponent can't deal anything. So some units may or may not really care about the focus. So like Ocean Breeze Ludica, depending on how it's built. If it's like effectiveness Ocean Breeze Ludica, then this Solitaire will be banned. If it's not effectiveness Ludica, it's like Fight Resistant Ludica that's just built on Tinky with Ice Crystal, you probably see Solitaire go through, especially if there's no other focus unit. So yeah. Otherwise, she's on a speed hit set. She has okay speed gear. Her effectiveness can be better, but whatever. Like I don't really bother with getting better speed gear for her, and she's of course on crown, so whatever. Okay. Infinite Horizon Arcades. Infinite Horizon Arcades was just a unit I built on a whim to trying to deal with units like Sylvan's. Units like Vivian, not Vivian, what should we call it? Like Moonlight Luna, until I realized that Moonlight Luna probably just doesn't care. Right? You can play Moonlight Luna into Wrecking Wanna, and Infinite Horizon and Katie gets reset, she's useless. So, the thing is that Infinite Horizon Katie has a situation where she is really slow, because she has 100 base speed. She needs a Fed resistance, because if she gets reset, she's useless. And she needs decent HP, because if she gets one shot, she's useless. So she's actually in a situation where she's kind of really bad. You don't really have enough stats to kind of go around to keep her alive. You need her to fast, you need her bulky, and you need her with enough effect resistance to resist crap. This basically makes it so she's okay. If your opponent is really debuff heavy and you know your Infinite Horizon cage won't get one shot, pick her. She is the best reversal cleanser in the game, and on top of that, you don't even need to S3, right? You can hold your S2, you can hold your S3 to S2 to cleanse it a little bit, so you'll push that target, and basically counter control your opponent because your opponent just didn't control you early enough. Stuff like that. Otherwise, no, I don't pick her. Like, there's not enough debuffers that really matter, and any of the debuffers that really do it, they can probably have like Inno EO debuff. So like A Tyrant has an Inno EO stun when he's in range. This goes around Moonlight Arcades, and Moonlight Arcades gets controlled. Who cares? She's useless. Like if she can't get her skill 3 off, she doesn't do anything, right? Stuff like that. Spirit Eye Celine. This is my Spirit Eye Celine. She's on not injury. She's on Lifesteal Pen. Like she's on low HP, decent attack, decent crit chance, decent crit damage. Only reason her attack seems low is because she also her S3 buff now also gives increased attack, which is cool. And she also counterattacks when suffering a crit. So the big note I have to note here is that it says counterattack. This means your opponent has like Moonlight Elena, right? Or not Moonlight, yeah, Moonlight Elena, Astromancer Elena. She's not going to counter. She's useless. So, her automatic choice is Dust Devil. Why Dust Devil? Because Dust Devil means that she can S1 into another S1 and probably obliterate whoever it is. The issue about Spirit Eye Celine is that I sometimes use her in OTA. I don't really use her in Guild Wars as much anymore. But the thing about it is that in modern day OTA, we've been seeing more units who just don't crit, right? And since these units don't crit or they just can't crit in the first place, Spirit Eye Celine is useless because. Like, what's the point of her? She can't counter. She'll take too much damage because she won't take she'll take like non-crit damage, which means she doesn't heal. She doesn't get the lifesteal. And on the big news on top of that is that you have Spirit Eye Celine, right? There's a lot more There's a lot more extra damage in the game, and a lot more extra damage means she's super easy to pop. So we look at like something like Moonlight Luna, right? Moonlight Luna, her S2 does pretty good damage, and it also does additional extra damage on top of that, which also hits Celine. So if you play against like Moonlight Luna, you're going to get sealed, right? If you get sealed, she loses her 50% damage, her 51% damage limiter, which basically means she's useless. Boo-hoo, right? If you play against someone like Blood Moon Haze will be able to S1 into her. Right? Since he can't crit, he'll be able to S1, deal 51% damage, and then S1 again, because probably she will have a buff. And since she will have a buff, that would be 100% of the HP bonus you die. So, and if you play against like Bridal Senya will just she'll do like 50% of her HP, which is like 4,000 HP in this case, 4,200 HP in this case. right? And then her S3 when she has her hand buff will do 2.5k, so that's like an additional 2.5k out of 4,000. And then of course usually most banyas have 3F. And since most banyas have 3F, that's probably like another like 2,000, 3,000 damage. And that's another 3,000 damage. She's just popped. She's dead. So yeah, too much extra damage in the game, and she's too niche. She's still really good. If your opponent is playing like Abyssal Euphane, and you know your opponent is really reliant on getting crits, she's the best pickup, right? She beats Moonlight Can, especially she beats Moonlight Can, and especially if she can cycle around enough where she will always take 2 turns before Moonlight Can. But if you don't, Moonlight Can will probably just, you know, hit her back for 51% of max HP and instantly kill her after that. So whatever. She's a gimmicky character. I like it, but she's not as great. Angel or Angelica, she's still the devil in the game. She's just not as strong as the devil, because okay, because even though she got silence and stuff, right, and unbuffable, you have Luna. Luna is just better. Like Moonlight Luna is faster. She has Sober and no effect resistance. She puts unbuffable. She puts Seal. So Angel or Angelica is still, don't get me wrong, she's still a good pick. She still Theo pushes a lot. If your opponent AoEs. If you can play a Tywin plus Angel or Angelica to basically ruin a cleave. If you're playing to play Drawn Cleave, you play Aola, a Tywin. And you play both of them together, boom, just like that, your opponent has no defense base, has no stigma, like especially against Ron. So like, boom. Yeah, she's great if your opponent's cleaving. Because she can probably, especially since against Ron, she can probably CO push out of that, right? Put the skill note on everyone, and probably if she has enough CO push, she can probably like cut the turn, and then just silence the entire cleave team. If you silence the cleave team, the cleave team just falls apart. So, yeah. Build wise, I put speed effectiveness. I think speed hit. I think it's better to play more speed now. It's not as important to play on like 200 speed to deal with hand guy anymore, because of how the meta shifted. Hand guy's kind of been pushed a little bit out. So just need effectiveness, as much effectiveness as you possibly can, and some speed. That's it. Camilla PvE unit. Savior Arden. Savior Arden is it's still used, right? She's still a pretty good anti-cleaver. She's not really used against DDR because DDR has sleep. She's not really good against Bloodman Haze because Bloodman Haze is just so tanky. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, stuff like that. She's still really good. She still can win. She can still win me games, especially if the opponent's cleaving a lot. But I don't really like to rely on the speed, on the RNG of dodging to really do damage. So I usually just don't do it unless my opponent is like playing like Reku Warner, right? Where I know that they have to have 2 AoEs. And with 2 AoEs, if say Arden dodges both AoEs, she can probably S3 to put invincibility on everyone, basically resetting a clear team. So that's nice, right? Otherwise, her artifact choice is Sword of Cycling Seasons. This just increases evasion, which is cool. And it increases the character has the elemental advantage, increases damage dealt. This just doesn't mean I use it as just as a dark one shot. Usually, I probably wouldn't play Sword of Cycling Seasons anymore. I'd rather play something like what's the other thing called? The thief artifact? Probably I forget what it's called. Why am I blanking now? Moonlight Dreamblade, MODB. But yeah, it's like Free Spiritaria, okay, she's PvE only. I use her instead of Orbital Vildred ever since his EE to play more as a unrecorded history format. So she's built so she can form unrecorded history without issues. That's it. Watcher Shuri. What can I say about Watcher Shuri? He's too slow. He's a speed imprint, sure, but he's usually too slow to really do anything, so I don't pick him anymore. His attack is actually ridiculously trash. What the hell am I doing? But yeah, he's kind of weak nowadays because he doesn't do enough, if you ask me, right? Like he does damage, sure, but he just like he's too slow. Like, but if you're playing him as a cleaver, you probably don't have really way to follow up with him, right? Or you don't have a way to really for him to take a turn initially before he just gets overrun by someone faster than he is, right? So that's that. Lost Rider Crowd. I don't really use him anymore. You see his HP has been lower than last time you saw him. I think last time you saw him, he was 25,000, 26,000 HP. I've been lowering his HP by a lot. That's just because I don't really favor Lost Rider Crow over all the other knights in the game. Yes, he's an Aureus holder, but he's a terrible Aureus holder. He's not really good with Aureus. It's just Aureus is good, right? And compared to other things, you don't really want to do as much damage as a knight as much anymore. You don't want him to do the bike early, because if your opponent has Janua, the bike will just result in your team just getting wiped by Janua. So yeah, it's a rough meta for LK. Not to mention that we also have injury. Then we have Blood Moon Haste. So him giving immunity to the team is cool and all, right? He's a good 8 Tyrant counter. But if your opponent has like Blood Moon Haste, he'll just strip the immunity, and then just deal way too much damage to someone, right? Especially DPS. So yeah, it kind of sucks, but he's cool. And of course, DOI is immunity, and you want to try to build him as speed and HP as possible. But yeah, Doris is only used with Guild Wars. She's really good at the Dork Bait. That's all I can really say. My Doris hasn't changed from last time we saw her, I don't think. Like, so yeah, not much to mention for her. She's on resistance with all the stuff. Right, she's on speed. She's just tanky, and she just has Water's Origin just to make it so when she gets hit by a massive hit, she can heal a bit more, basically making it harder for Dorky to kill her. Unbound Knight Orwell, of the knights, I don't use her as much anymore. She's a really good knight, don't get me wrong. She still has probably one of the best mitigation in the game, but she is not the best mitigation in the game. She's just really good at dealing with things where you need to stun a unit. Otherwise, I don't really find a good case use for her. She's tanky, like, right? She's still good as a knight, but nowadays you either need a purely defensive knight or purely offensive knight, or like a counter offense knight, right? Unbound Knight Orwell is just like this control knight that is just not really good enough nowadays. Getting a stun is cool, but it's not really like she doesn't really do as much as you need her to do. And she can probably, yeah, she has seal push, but the problem is that she just sits there and she just adds, okay, like let me rephrase this. She's really good if you're a slow player like me. She's really good if Crimson Omen gets banned, right? But usually Crimson Omen doesn't get banned. But if she does, Unbound Knight Orwell is probably the second best mitigation they get, apart from Crimson Omen, who will go over soon. Otherwise, she's good. I still pick her sometimes, but I don't really pick her as often compared to Crimson Omen, who just has more mitigation. But Lion, Elvis immunity on counter set. This is just counter blind. Her HP is pretty low on purpose, so she doesn't get one shot by Galileuth. But she's here just to say if she counters an Elvis, then she probably will wipe a clean team by herself. Right? So Elvis should do like 3,000 damage or 4,000 chip, and then she Elvis one more time. That's gonna one shot any taunt unit in the game. So yeah, good unit. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I didn't really change her. Actually, last time I think, if I remember correctly, last time I showed her on an injury set. Now I showed her on a counter set because I realized counter is just better. Otherwise, nothing really changed. Last piece Quinn was skipped. She's not really built. Dragon by Senya. Dragon by Senya is actually one of my favorite knights in the game. She is a counter offense knight. So she is here to put someone in the background like Abyssal Euphine and use Abyssal Euphine as a way to pit your opponent to not target a certain unit. Like let's say like how I use, for example, a Euphine. Right? This is really good because Dragon Blade Senya does incredible amount of damage if your opponent is crazy enough to accidentally hit the person in the background with 50%, or they maybe have no choice. I don't know. But if that happens, she will absolutely obliterate anyone. Right, so this Dragon by Senya is ridiculously tanky at 37.5k HP or 1.8k defense. The reason why I have this much HP in defense is because usually how people deal with Grado Senya is they just rush her down, right? So if I build her on so much HP, it basically make it really impossible for people to rush her down, or basically have to commit so much resources to rush her down that it ends up being really good for me. So stuff like that, right? So that's just really good. Otherwise, yeah. Looking at her gear, okay, she has like ridiculously high gear, right? She has 39, 37, we saw a 32, 50% defense here, like and stuff like that. And then she of course has a 65% HP boots here. If I really need to, I can probably speed it up to 45 speed boots here in favor of less HP if I really have to. But I like more HP, so yeah. It just makes it more tanky and makes it basically more annoying. But if I had speed boost here, I would push her to 200 speed would be also be really good. So I have flexibility. Okay, next up Lionheart Sylmia. I don't know what to say about Lionheart Sylmia. She kind of sucks now because of units like Seahand and Polly, because of Elvira, because of units like Blood Moon Haste. Because these units, they simply ignore pen, right? So like, it's just, even units like Dragon Bite, they ignore penetration, they ignore defense. So by ignoring defense, since she's a defense scaler, she needs to build on really high damage, so really high defense, really high crit chance and crit damage, but you also need it on really high speed or else she doesn't really do anything. So the issue is that she has way too many stats for her Zodiac. Effect isn't such a dumb imprint for her because she don't really need it. But otherwise, yeah, so I built her on lifesteal defense on Proof of Valor just to make sure she can survive. But I'm not really thrilled about picking her. The only picker of my opponent is like Fuwan, AoE, like Fuwan counter attacking, and they don't have Elvira, they don't have Seahand and Polly, they don't have Dragon Bite Senya for some reason, stuff like that. She's still really good. Otherwise, no, she's not really good anymore. Like she kind of got out-drafted by people who just ignore defense. Anyways, other than that, I had to mention that she is the one who gets the skin for this OTA season. So next time I do an account review, do look out for her with her little big lion and like her Dionysus looking outfit. Okay, Crimson Omen. Almost done. Crimson Omen. Last time I built her, I noted how I built my Crimson Omen on barrier immunity with like 20,000 HP to get around Midnight Galileuses. Nowadays, I realize there's no real point to do that anymore because Midnight Galileuses don't really hit a Crimson Omen as much anymore. Right? So the idea is now just build as much HP as possible so you can play the barrier set with as much defense as possible and with decent speed. So she has decent speed here on a 80% boots, right? And basically this means that she's actually decently tanky. So she puts what's this, like 3,000 barrier? Yeah, like a 3,000 barrier. No, actually no, it's 10%. 25,000. Yeah, like a 2,000, 3,000 barrier. Yeah, I mean, I can't do math today. So she puts like a 3,000 barrier on everyone. She puts immunity on herself, and she has Aureus with her damage reduction on her S2, right? Which is 15%. Okay, I want to mention that it's 15% for everything, not crits, not non-crits, everything. Which basically means you're compounding 15% damage reduction on top of a 20% redirection from Aureus. So basically, this makes her the best mitigation knight in the game, by far. She is the only knight in the game that basically uber annoying if you just can't break through her, right? So she can also put up the invincibility on the skill 3 and then immunity for everyone. Basically making that you're basically making your opponent's team you play against her that much harder to kill. So I play her a lot because she's so good as a mitigation knight that I play her a lot with Aegufine just to basically make her make this unit as unbreakable pretty much. So overall, I would recommend it. She's like a 9 out of 10 of a unit. Her only weakness is that she's pretty slow and she's more of a reactive character, but she's actually a really good reactive character due to the fact that even though I mentioned like, oh yeah, we want to be more proactive than reactive, right? She is a reactive character that just ends up being slightly proactive, that ends up being decently proactive because of her damage mitigation. Because you slam her on the field, you tell your opponent you cannot do enough damage to kill me and stuff like that. That's actually really proactive and it's really good as a way to shut down characters like Benya, right? Because Benya damage will get mitigated by a lot. I typically play her with Benya. It's really good with Aegufine because it basically made Aegufine way too tanky to deal with, and even people who try to go like do mid-range damage using units like Lionheart Sylmia probably won't even be able to break through. That's just way too much damage. Seastone's not built. Camilla is the PvE. Camilla model powerful. Why the hell is he not built here? But Yeah, he's on a Destro. I'm missing a. Why am I missing a Destro set here? Why am I missing a Destruction set here? Who has it? Oh, Guido ate there. Oh, whoops. Okay, so yeah, so he's supposed to have Destro set here, but I took off the year. Whoops, my bad. But yeah, but he has decent high attacking. I only use him for unrecorded history farming, sometimes for Guild Wars, but I don't like he's just not good. He doesn't do enough. Like, if you need to cleave, right? Cleave nowadays is less about it's either you want to lead with one shot, or you play Recon Warner control. You don't use much mana amount of problem. That's not good enough. Next up, Navy Captain Lane, not Naval Captain. She's okay. I built her on decent HP with decent defense, on really high attack, with decent crit chance and decent crit damage. This is the same Laney build I showed before, where she's on really high damage. She's just here just to be able to as a counter to cleave and just be able to play one shot at cleave, right? Just say like if cleave decides to cleave gets Elbrus and I salvo. More like a not, I probably will wipe or do massive damage to a cleave team, and eventually when she gets a ship, she's a massive threat. She'll probably do an insane amount of damage on the ship. Just simple as that. Nothing really changes. Okay, last element set. Urban Shadow Shoe. Urban Shadow Shoe is decently fast at 260 speed. She almost has 100% crit chance, which I'm pretty pissed about. Her HP is really good at 22,000. Most people usually run 20 to 24,000, and her crit damage is kind of low. But that doesn't really matter. What matters more is that she gets speed, some defense, and HP. Because what you need her to do is you need her to be fast enough so she can get an S3 off to start the injury stacking with the speed buff that she also gets an S3. And then you need her to be tanky enough so she doesn't get focused target down. So what I have speed set here. You can tell she has decent speed gear, relatively okay, with decent HP and defense. And she has, of course, really high HP and stuff like that. So, of course, artifact-wise, you want to choose Proof of Valor if you can. Some people you can play a degen variant of this. You can play like speed resistance, no crit, no damage, right? But you play speed resistance or Bastion of Hope, and that basically means your Urban Shadow Shield cannot be controlled. Basically, making her really good into units like Narc War, especially No Surban, units like Bowman Haste, because he won't be able to strip into S2 into S1 extra attack. The only weakness about that is that her ramping takes forever. So if you play degen style with heavy resistance, she does basically no damage, right? So I opted for more damage since I wanted her to just be a threat. So I wanted her to be able to S3 to deal massive amount of damage to massively injure my opponent, and just basically from there start like obliterating, start being pretty annoying, just sitting there. Whew, that's up. Zio. Speed Pen. Okay, this is DPS 0, it hasn't changed. Other than the fact that I might have slowed them down since last time. I think last time it was 259, I slowed them down to 255. Only reason why, as I said, I had Luna built. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah, he's Speed Pen, he's on a DPS build with usual build. I won't say anything. Oh, I can mention, I have another mage that I don't have built, which is, Sylvan Sage Vivian. Don't mention, I just got Sylvan Sage Vivian today, so anyone says anything and anyone says they notice like, oh yeah, I see Sylvan Sage Vivian not there. Yeah, I just got it. Please don't kill me. Okay. Next, Barrier Witch. Ever since she got her EE, she's doing okay. She's still not the best. She's really good if your opponent's like Orbit the Virgin, right? If your opponent's playing Orbit the Virgin, your opponent playing Blood Moon Haste, right? She's good. She will be here. She will prevent your opponent from reviving, which is what Blood Moon Haste's entire gimmick is all about, and doing really high damage. She can put unbuffable on everyone. She's good. Just like outside of that, she's not really good, right? If your opponent is not really relying on getting revives, nah, she's like okay. She is one of the first characters to have EE. Her E is just plus 10 speed or plus 8, and it increases defense effect hit chance, decreased chance on S3, changing it from 75 to 85. It's trash. It's like 10% defense doesn't really change anything. It just makes her more in line with something like Ron. Okay, that's it. There's no reason to pick her. Like there's no reason to pick her unless your opponent is picking Obi. Right, that's it. She's just a counterfeit nowadays. People have been playing her at 300 speed, but usually that's just not enough. Like, it's probably just not good enough, right? Like, she's like, oh, like, yeah, I put debuffs, but then you deal with like Elena, then you deal with the fact that like there's probably a way to cleanse it off, and yeah. Probably having fun. She got massively slowed down from the last time I showed you guys. It's she used to be 260 something, 265 I think, and I slowed her down to 242 because I don't use her anymore. It's like, even though I love her as a unit, she kind of sucks. Like getting S3 not being able to be countered and bombs, and then she's kind of delayed where she has to get a 50% CO push, and then she has to like go into a nets to get a bomb. That's way too easy to cleanse. Like people would pick like Elena into you. They pick like Mulekadi's into you, and there's nothing you can do. Like they would just cleanse it off. Like she's too slow. Like she get a CO push, haha, but you just cleanse, right? And then nowadays with Celine activating, the thing about it is that her S1 detonate comes after her S2 non-attack skill, which means Celine will cleanse it off. And since Celine will cleanse off the debuff, it means Celine will probably just nuke one of your teammates. So you can't really play her anymore. It's not good enough. But I can sometimes use it for guild wars if I really want to control a unit, but like there's better options. If you want to control your opponent, you can just play Muda Luna. You can just play Red Iguana. She's too slow. Simple as that. Next up, D-Lily. D-Lily bit. I wouldn't say much. Her build sucks, but she's okay if your opponent is, you know, doing a lot of debuffs, like. But the issue is we have a lot of resource reduction on top of that. So you know, like Mula Luna seals her. Since she seals her, she can't gain fighting spirit per debuff on an ally, meaning she can't get a full cleanse, meaning she can't CO push and get a full cleanse with defense buff and stuff like that. So that sucks. She's too slow. On the flip side of the coin, we have units like Sea Phantom Poly. Sea Phantom Poly reduces fighting spirit gain and focus gain by 50%, right? Since she gains fighting spirit gain and focus by 50%, it means the little bit needs to do double the work in order to actually get the cleanse off, and by that time that you get the cleanse off, Sea Phantom Poly probably would have already destroyed your team. So yeah, she kind of needs a buff. And on top of that, she also gets like something like a reset against someone like let's say like Knockwall, right? That also sucks, because if she gets Knockwall, she gets reset, her entire gimmick is that she's supposed to cleanse on her skill 3. But if she can't do that, then her S1 is just a joke, so what can I say? Okay, next, Hand Guy. Hand Guy has been falling off slightly because of Lila, but he's still a really good pick, especially if Lila's banned. He's especially good in someone like a Tywin because he can put the immunity when Lila can't, and he can CO push. He's still really good. He's still what I call the Swiss Army Knight for the game. He is the perfect he's the perfect support you want. He has hunting, he has immunity, attack buff, he has barrier, he has CO pushing. He's basically uncontrollable when he has his skill 3 up. Stuff like that. So you can play like Warhorn, right? Speed, HP set, just to be bulky. And in mind, I'd rather have more speed now because you don't really worry about playing against an Aola to deal with him. Because you just need him to be faster than like a Tywin or be right behind an a Tywin. Either or works. But using that idea, yeah, he's still decent. He's still doing okay. Build wise, like yeah, it's like yeah, but the only issue that for Hand Guy is that his weakness is getting reset. Like that's like Lila's greatest strength is she cannot be reset once. So if you reset her one time, she can just ignore it. Hand Guy, if you reset him, he's useless. So yeah, yeah, it's a rough time, but we'll see. He's still really good if like let's say Knockwall is banned, Knockwall Lua is in pit. It's like a Luna with an A Tywin and like a DDR. You can probably just cleanse all of those debuffs off and just hope that your opponent can't really do anything. Simple as that. Obi. Okay, Obi is a new character I build now for PvP. So Obi got a recent EE, which is ridiculously overpowered. He gained 18 to 14% attack, but I basically been ruled. His when he revives, he gains Ultimate Might, which increases his attack by 30% and evasion by 50%. So the increased evasion is really nice if you play degen, but most people just play normal speed pen or speed taunt or triple taunt. Because the increased attack here, 30% attack with 8% with a Gabby E is absolutely bonkers. You will have like 100% attack. His Gab gives like 85% I think. Gab is 85%. You get 30% from increased attack here, right? From the increased 30%, you get like almost 16% from the Ultimate Eye. Then you have Taunt set. Then you have like full focus. Blah blah blah. Oh my god, you're gonna be obliterating cleave comps. So if your opponent plays cleave, you pick this man, and you can probably obliterate cleave comp. If your opponent plays like, I don't know, Moonlight Ludwig, like Wander Ludwig, right? Since he has the evasion here, right? When he revives with the Ultimate Might, basically means it makes it even harder to hit him. So that's the funny part. So yeah, he's really good. Probably not into Ludwig, because Ludwig does have the evasion hit chance, but he's really good into like Ron. He's really good into like Ron with Requiem Warner, right? Because he fully resets cooldown. Then he revive, he'll S3, he'll go Descending Blade, he'll obliterate someone. I played him one time and he did like 20 to 25,000. Like he is absolutely obliterate. He absolutely bonkers for a unit if you can get him off. But he build wise, who cares? Do not focus on the HP and defense unless you're playing degen. If you're playing like how I play speed taunt, as much attack as you possibly can, as much crit chance, as much crit damage as you possibly can, and some decent speed. Decent speed here is just so people don't ignore him, right? So people will actually have to fear him and like see. So if you get lucky enough, you can probably get a raw skill 3 off. And raw skill 3 still pretty does like 12,000 damage. It's still pretty insane. So yeah, especially and then with Gab, it would probably do 18,000. Like it would be absolutely bonkers. Like he's such a strong unit nowadays. Okay, Kitty Cat PvE, Singelica PvE, S10A. My S10A build kind of got nerfed a bit. She lost a little bit of crit chance here because I overcapped by a lot. But overall, she is not really used anymore. There's too much AoE in the game. She doesn't do enough damage to, even though she has a stealth, she's cool against like, okay, she's like, oh yeah, she's stealth. She can't be targeted by Bowman Haze, right? Like when you think about like, oh yeah, Bowman Haze is fully singular, she can't be targeted, right? But when you think about it, Bowman Haze is so tanky that Geneva will probably kill an ally before Bowman Haze activates. Before Bloodmoon Haste will die, and Bloodmoon Haste can always sober an S1 to an S1 extra attack to fully heal against the Spectre damage. So, all in all, not really a good unit. Like, the issue too is that she's only good if your opponent's playing, for some reason, no AoE, and if your opponent has to play like Aegifine, happens to play Aegifine, happens to play Dragon Brightsenya, happens to play Naval Captain Lady, this unit just like falls down the cliff. Like any AoE that is like decent, like she just doesn't work anymore. So yeah. That's Apoc Ravi. I don't use Apoc Ravi anymore. The problem about Apoc Ravi, she kinda got her spot taken by Bowman Haze. Bowman Haze is just her but better. So the thing about it is that she's an anchor, right? So she's an anchor that's just supposed to do really big damage, and when she's skill 3, she does massive damage, she kills someone, and she revives someone. Guess what Bloodmoon Haze does? Bloodmoon Haze does big damage, he heals our whole team. When he's skill 3, he can revive everyone, right? He can revive someone, he can put immortality on everyone, and I know that I mentioned he heals a lot, and he has a passive that if an ally dies, he puts barriers and immunity on everyone, which is a pretty massive barrier. All in all, she's not good anymore. Like all in all, she's like really bad into Bloodmoon Haze, she's really bad into Benya. Like there's either way to just overrun her. Yada yada yada, not good enough. Right. Like okay, I have her on counter pen, and I have her on some sort of player beast to decrease damage dealt when taken by a single target. Overall, no, like her kit is outdated by Bloodmoon Haze, which is pretty funny. So, boohoo. Abyssal Euphine. From the last time I showed her, my Abyssal Euphine used to be like 2,000 defense on the dot with 14,000, probably 12,000 HP. I realized, and probably like 200-300% crit damage here. So before then, before like a long time ago, you were able to get away with a squishy AUFNA because the opponent couldn't really do much damage, right? Nowadays, you really want a tanky AUFNA with lifesteal set because a tanky AUFNA with lifesteal set and immunity, especially immunity. I used to run lifesteal crit. Lifesteal immunity gives you more options to survive against units like Blum and Hayes, against units like Benya. Because like even though Benya, like even like the 38,000 Benya, she'll probably do like 14,000 damage. She won't kill the AUFNA, especially due with the damage mitigation from Aureus and like Crimson Norman. She's so tanky that she really won't get one shot. She's really hard to one shot, and as a result of being really hard to one shot, she stays on the field and she becomes even more annoying. And since and the big deal is that when people target her, they always risk the 30% chance of her countering. But when people target anyone else, they risk the 20% chance of Elber's Ritual Sword activating, right? Or maximum 20%. So when all of that gets combined, she ends up being on Elber's Ritual Sword with decent bulk. She ends up being this threat that's just eternally on the field. So you can try. Some people try to rush her down. Like from my experience, it's really hard to rush down this AUFNA. She's so tanky, she can just survive it, right? And she has on lifesteal set too, so anytime she counters, she'll just heal enough to just add one more hit you need to do. So in the end, she's really good. She also threatens your opponent because your opponent can't really focus her as much as they like because they don't want to give her full fighting spirit at a certain turn. Even against someone like Elvira, right? Even though Elvira might be like, oh, Elvira like counters fighting spirit, right? Oh yeah, Elvira, but the thing about it is like a bit like Melanie. She doesn't really care about Fighting Spirit. Like Fighting Spirit just allows her to S3, but you can just do just as fine if you're tanky and you play Elber's Ritual Sword on lifesteal. Because eventually you will chip your opponent, and since you will chip your opponent can't really do anything. Simple as that. That's just how you play it. Okay, second to the last one on this list. Lone Crescent Bellona. Lone Crescent Bellona is on counter pen. I used to run her Destro a long time ago, but I realized that nowadays running her on Destro ended up just resulting in her being too easy to target. So running her on counter with Sigurd Scythe is really important because that means if people hit her and she's on Sigurd Scythe, she can counter attack, deal massive amount of damage, and then heal a pretty good chunk of it back. And then of course if she gets the S2, she'll heal even more chunks of it back. So basically all that combined means she's a really good counter into something like Valandi. She's really good counter into Senya. Not Dragon Bite Senya, but actual like Green Senya. She's really good as a counter into maybe Ravi, because Ravi will have to still 3, but the thing about Ravi is that she may counter just kill it. But overall, she's a really good safe pick. But compared to other units like Ravi, is usually safer because she's just tankier. But Lone Crescent Bellona is better if you want to be more offensive, or you want to be more like, oh, there's a Bly on the field. I want to be more offensive. I want to kind of punish these AoE people who keep AoEing, right? These people who keep I want to punish these people like Landy, right? Who keeps AoE. I want to one-shot the Landy, stuff like that. Like Ravi can't one-shot the Landy while Sobin. So Lone Crescent Bellona with Sobin can deal massive amount of damage, right? And ever since her buff, and then from last time, she got a change. So her S3 does less damage now, but it has less cooldown reduction, which is cool. And the big one is that her S1 now is the Sobin, which is 10 souls, increased damage dealt. This increased damage dealt is pretty massive. If you can Sobin Lone Crescent Bellona at pretty much max stats, you can probably one-shot a Naval Counter Landy. Like, just straight out because of that, because of how much damage you can do. Okay, last but not least, Shadow Knight Pilot. She used to be the one on the Racket Punch that, if you watch some of my Go Board videos from a long time ago, she had Racket Punch. But nowadays, I decided not to put on Rocket Punch anymore because Karina is just simply better on Rocket Punch. And then for Pilot's sake, using her to counter Landy not as big of a deal anymore. We have enough counters that Pilots to counter Landy is just like down a cliff, right? To counter someone, let's say I want to counter someone like Evasion, right? That also goes down a cliff. We don't need that. We have enough true damage to just ignore it. Oh yeah, and I should mention true damage is also in the game. But not true damage, extra damage and basically true damage. So damage that ignores defense, I call true damage. Yeah, so Pilot has a defense scaler and dealing with true damage, and then like she doesn't really need to be used to deal with 18 years because true damage or defense ignoring damage basically doesn't really get that much by evasion. would just like still just kill like an Aiden, like a Benya spear, so a Battle Senya spear, probably would just kill an Aiden outright, like especially when Silvan. So like you don't need pilots anymore to deal with that. Ever since we have access to those units, like even like Blood Moon Haze, you don't need pilots to protect you anymore. You have Blood Moon Haze, you have Dragon Bright Senya. Anyways, well, oh yeah, last one, BBK got an EE. I will test that EE. I can't really say much with her. I'll probably change this trip set here to like Torrent or something like let's say like another like resist set, but otherwise, yeah. So I need to test her EE. She got a new EE here, which increases her crit chance, and then she also, I think the E I'm going to try to go for is this one. Okay, I thought I was saying. Alright, so when so her thing is that her crystal increases when someone receiving lethal damage and grants immortality to the caster. This basically means she has two passives. She has the one where she gets immortality already, and then she has K-Mod's passive, which is kind of funny. So overall, good pick. But I have to test into her. And then, anyways, well, that wraps up a almost over 2 hour video about
why don't you test your luck? Goodbye.
RTA or
I'll see you
how my
later,
account goes.
if you're still alive.
Anyways, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll probably do another one of these long 2 hour videos next time, whenever I do whenever the next season, I don't know what season it is, but whenever the next season ends, right? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.